Hi friends and new friends, I'm Tao of Satoshi and you're watching Cash Alternative TV. When one thinks about the list of countries that would benefit from Dash as a decentralized digital cash, the likes of Venezuela and India come to mind. But one country in particular that should lead the list of countries that should join Dash Nation would be Zimbabwe. Now, Zimbabwe abandoned their central currency a little while ago after a bout with rampant inflation in their country, and the patchwork of currencies that they're using now as a replacement is just that, patchwork at best, suffering from lack of liquidity and long lines at banks and other issues. So fortunately, having Dash on the ground in Zimbabwe would be able to help this situation. Today I had the pleasure of talking with Drako Kurtimilidis, who is the proposal owner of Kuva Cash, and he's hoping that this will be the catalyst that needs to bring Dash to the ground in Zimbabwe. So I hope you enjoy my chat with him. Welcome to CITV. My guest today is Drako Kurtimilidis. He's doing a proposal in Zimbabwe to establish Dash, establish a beachhead for Dash in Zimbabwe. And he joins me today to talk about Dash and his involvement in the proposal. Welcome to Cash Alternative TV.
Thanks, Tao. It's very good to be here. Very exciting.
All right, so why don't you give the viewers a quick rundown of yourself and how you got into cryptocurrency and then how you got into Dash.
Sure. So in crypto, I'm a tech entrepreneur from a long time back, and I've been focusing kind of on consumer insight, so technology consulting back in the day, then consumer insight technologies, and then also have built like currency exchanges as well, like traditional currency exchanges. I've been stuffed by a large bank as well in that process, so I have experience of that. And my attention to crypto was brought to me by a friend, a colleague who is very good at spotting these sorts of things about 5 years ago. And we looked at Bitcoin, which I really became very interested in, and we started becoming involved in that as well. And we really saw that was something new. It was really something very new, and it could really change like everything. Like it wasn't quite apparent like 5 years ago, but sort of as it evolved, we started to see like really where the potentials and possibilities were for it. And I became very excited about this. And yeah, so we got sort of involved a bit with that. And then it also became apparent what some of the issues were in Bitcoin. I think it started to lose its identity a little bit, and so I also become interested in other sort of alternatives to or improvements to what Bitcoin was originally trying to do and what we felt was they were trying to achieve. And then we just come across Evan and Darkcoin, and the Dash project obviously has evolved into the Dash project. And just so many things were actually addressed in that project, and he produced so much value very, very quickly that we were like, okay, this is really good. And so we hooked into that. I guess really, I really liked the way that it was evolving at the time. And then about 6 months ago or so, I contacted no, it was a little bit longer than that, around February. I contacted Ryan Taylor. It was very good to see an appointment of like a CEO who was looking to kind of aim the direction of what was being developed in Dash, and what I felt was really the right way. And I thought I could maybe help with some of my background. So I kind of came in and helped a little bit with business strategy and proposition development for Dash. Yeah, more recently I've been in New York doing a little bit of that as well.
So like, for the viewers, why don't you give us like a little synopsis of like what a transaction would be like on the ground and like how banking is for Zimbabwean people right now?
Sure. So it's depending on which angle you start from. So let's start from, say, someone who's just being paid money and they want to get it out and go and buy things. If you want to get money out of a bank, you're going to have to. You can drive for half an hour out of Harare to a bank. You're going and you're going to have to line up around from 6 in the morning. You may have to line up for half the day to be able to take out your cash. Your cash at the moment, the Zimbabwe government they've reissued some government bonds which are tethered to the US dollar. A little complex, I won't get into that, but basically, they are tethered to US dollars, and they're looking to kind of use that as a stopgap currency measure. But no one really has any trust for government issued fiat at the moment in Zimbabwe. So what's happening is for cash on the ground, people are using foreign currencies, around 9 foreign currencies, although 90% of the transactions that are done with foreign currencies is US dollar. About 5% is done in ZAR, South African Rand as well. So the US dollars in circulation, and I've got some pictures of this as well, because they're obviously not taking them out of circulation and issuing new ones, are just filthy. They end up becoming black. In fact, if you clean US dollars, you can provide clean US dollar bills. You can charge anywhere between 10 and 20% premium just for swapping dirty money for clean money. So it's really unbelievable. There's people hanging up US dollar bills on washing lines to wash them out and things like that. On the other side of things, 82% of all payments in Zim are made via mobile. And the fees that they charge for these, so EcoCash, for example, EcoNet, the fees that are charged for these services are just like, again, they would not be acceptable in a developed country. So if you want to send $5, you could be paying 50 cents. You'd be paying 10% of that to the mobile to the mobile cash provider. But also, as well as that, when people take this money on the merchant side, they're paying a fee, and so the merchants tend to also it's up to 15% extra that they charge. So if you imagine paying an extra 25% just to be able to make any transaction, you know, that's really what it's like in Zimbabwe. And to be able to use clean money is going to cost you 20% extra. And to be able to take money out of a bank, you have to go to and line up outside that bank at 6 in the morning. So I've got some pictures and things like this from Zim and off the ground. And we also interviewed some people on the ground to see what kinds of transactions are making, the volume of transactions, whether they're interested in some alternative. And so yeah, obviously they are interested in an alternative, desperately so, but no one has any ideas what will work. So yeah, that's what it's like in Zim. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of need for something that will come in and solve that problem. It's, you know, a real needle in the eye, as they say.
All right, so it sounds like Dash would be a perfect solution for people like that, because coming from a worldwide perspective, it's not a centralized company and it's already established with low fees and instant transactions. That would be perfect for the Zimbabwean people. But you mentioned something about trust also. How do you propose that you will get the trust of Dash with the Zimbabwean people? Are you gonna have interviews, not interviews, but conferences and stuff, or are you gonna do advertising, or what is it that you plan to do with that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because underlying all of this is, you know, remember that they've been burned once, twice, 3 times. They're getting burned by mobile cash providers. That, you know, getting burned all over the place. So, how do we establish trust? So our primary way that we're going to do it is that our key proposition, our key USP, is that cash is always available. So actually we need a sort of a stopgap as well within the proposition we're developing, that when people transact using Dash, and they want to do it in a very specific way, it's normally done phone number to phone number. It's normally, you have to understand that, for example, a lot of transactions are done outdoors. QR codes don't work because there's a lot of sunlight, or that causes a certain percentage of problems. So we have to have different ways that people can actually do that transaction, and they're already used to doing it over their mobile phones. So normally, so that's kind of, we have to build a little bit of a layer on top of a wallet, and I'll get into that allows us to do that. So firstly, it has to operate. What I'm trying to say here is, it has to operate in the way that they expect it to for their market. It's the same way they expect other kind of mobile cash solutions to work. The second thing that we want to do, so users can always get cash and it's easy for them to use, right? On their phone, it's done in the same way. The second thing we've got to do is, what we're going to do is we're going to provide clean US dollar bills to people when they pull it out. So we're not going to recirculate the same US dollars. We're actually working to be able to take the circulated money out and bring back clean US dollar bills. So people, it's a very good talking point for people. They really value the ability to get clean money, and that's something that's part of our proposition as well, and forms part of our cash replenishment model, and also is critical for us to build that trust. The third thing, the way that we're actually doing our customer acquisition, we have a very good member market development, marketing that we're going to be doing. So essentially it's word of mouth marketing, where we're going to allow people to send very small amounts of denominations to someone else. And they have to then install the app to take that to be able to receive that amount of money, receive that transaction. We did some research on the ground. We can do this in a very inexpensive way. It will cost us around $1 per install for the application if we do this method that we've got planned. And we're sort of keeping it a bit quiet because, again, you know, we've done a lot of work to get to this point. But we're not going to be doing a lot of above the line marketing, at least initially. It'll be very much a word of mouth. We're looking to do a pilot where we have a bunch of people that are storing some value and doing some transactions with Dash that allows them to get cash in and out. And then we're using that data to then further build the proposition as we go forward.
Okay, so why don't you go into the nitty gritty of your proposal? What is it called?
Okay, so the project is called KuvaCash, and that's I guess, yeah, that's the name that James come up with. That is, you know, kind of rolls off the tongue for Zimbabwe. For people who are in Zimbabwe, we wanted something that was, you know, had a little bit of a kind of a national flavor to it. And we're making money better. That's our tagline for the local project that we're doing there in Zim. The proposal covers a number of aspects. I guess initially what we have to do is look to becoming regulated as well. So one of the things that we've been looking at now is the regulation, and we are becoming what's called an ADLA, which is an authorized dealer with limited authority. It allows us to actually do these mobile transactions and provide these cash services. It's a relatively low cost and two-tier model, so we can come in on a lower tier with our pilot. We do have to do things like post collateral and so on with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. There's a process of going through that to become regulated, where they'll inspect our premises and so on. So we have to have our agency network. They're going to come and inspect that. We have to have operations up and running and above the board. And that's something that's really critical, that I think within the crypto community is a little contention as to, you know, how regulated should this thing be. If we are going to be an ADLA, and that's really the only way that we can do this legitimately and bring it to people, you know, it can't be something that's done, you know, on the black market or anything like that. It has to be done that way. There are limits that we have to track and so on. So in our wallet, we have to be able to track how much money people are taking in and out in order to be able to report that to the government of Zimbabwe and the Reserve Bank. So, you know, and that allows us to remain in compliance. So a lot of the software that they're developing is really to ensure that the compliance reporting is done the right way, and that, you know, we are going to, you know, maintaining a regulated entity that's completely above board. So a lot of the initial work that we're doing, I'm just going to bring up my 4 phases. So in the first month, yeah, we're doing our ADLA pre-registration and registration. We're looking at engaging some agents in some strategic areas where we're going to be placing some ATM infrastructure. We set up the business registration as well, and we're doing a lot of branding and communications work just to make sure that we get our brand right. We want to look, you know, nice, and, you know, we want to look like a professional brand that looks like One Piece. It's very important to us. So that's our first stage. It's going to take us about a month to get that done. And then the next phase for us is really to do a lot of there's a software development project to be done that involves us actually building some ATM software customizations that we need to make. There's the float management system, there's the cash replenishment, there's some other bits and pieces we need to build, and also the wallet for the consumer, which is a KuvaCash wallet. Now that's going to be based on an existing project, which I've been in touch with. We're speaking with Chuck, engaged with Chuck who is our UX head at Dash and Dash Core. Those guys are working on the wallet infrastructure and some of the back end as well to allow us to build this on top of. So once we've done the wallet, we're going to go all the way through, put in all of the KYC, AML, as I discussed before. These are the requirements for the ADLA. All of that software has to be done, the reporting software. And then there's an integration phase where we put everything together and put the operational infrastructure in place. And then we push the button on our operations. The software development phase is going to be around 4 months, we think. It's not building a huge exchange, but we do have to be able to link into exchanges and make transactions in order to manage our float for Dash and also in and out of cash. And then after that, we have operations implementation. That's anywhere between 2 and 4 months, we feel. That means that we should have our full regulatory approval as an ADLA. We'll be posting collateral with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe of around $50,000 US that allows us to commence operations. We have to have our customer service, like at least the customer service desk for the initial pilot up and running. There's, in our offshore operations, which there's a company structure as well offshore, which allows us to actually operate, because the company itself that's inside Zimbabwe has to be 100% owned by a Zimbabwe national. So it will actually be owned by James, but they're actually a holding company that holds the IP and licenses, and that allows us to operate enough to be able to build a profit and make sure that we can self-sustain operations. So yeah, that's the 2 to 4 months from there. And then we kick off our member get member strategy, which means we start with around 50 people. We're going to give them some funds to be able to distribute, and also the people that they distribute, so some funds that can distribute for app installations, and those people can go and get the money out from our ATM infrastructure. They can also use Dash to transact between themselves. And over that phase, after that phase, we're going to start to look at some data from our operations and see if there are any changes that we need to make and so on. And yeah, that really, yeah, it starts to get a little bit foggier down the line because nobody has done this before. So we really like looking at piloting this thing first appropriately. We're looking to make it completely transparent. That's something I've made very clear in the proposal. We're going to run a blog. We're going to have quarterly, maybe also milestone webinars, and we also, could be very transparent about our financials. It may be that we need to return to the network for more funding if certain things happen. It may be that we can leverage it and go for a lot longer. We have a full financial plan around this, but again, until we get started, that's what's going to give us the clarity. So we're really asking to be able to do this pilot. It's going to last us anywhere between 6 and 8 months, and then we'll have a lot of information about how to take it further, and potentially how to scale that into other countries as well. Does that make sense? That's kind of what's covered in the proposal for now.
Yeah, okay. I just for my viewers that might care about these kind of things. So the network's going to be fronting you quite a bit of money. It's like around $500,000, right? Yeah,
so over 3 phases, we put in for some exchange risk as well. Over 3 phases, I think we asked for around 200K a month at the moment at the current price. It might be a bit less now because, but we do want to make sure that we've got enough buffer so that we can continue to operate. It would be a bit of a disaster if we run out. Yeah, it is a lot. It is, well, it's kind of, I've got to be kind of honest here. It's not a lot of money for the sorts of things that we're trying to implement. It's one of the most complex proposals that's ever been done, as far as what the setup, and that will become apparent. We're going to show this in the webinar. However, we want 2 things. We're keen to keep it transparent. We're putting in some of our own money as well into this, and we have already. And if, let's say, after the first month, people are not happy, they can vote out the funding for the other months. Now, we're not intending that to happen because we're all professionals. We're completely transparent about who we are. We've done this before. It's not, well, we've never done this before exact thing before, but I've built regulated businesses before. So to some extent, the network needs to be able to trust us to some extent. And I realize some projects are sort of falling off the cliff a little bit. This is not what we're intending. Now, I've discussed with Ryan the possibility of running some escrow or something like that. We're happy to do that. Just consider as well that we have other investors who are involved in this. We want it to become a self-sustaining thing. So it's necessary for us to make it profitable. And also, within the context of that and some of the discussions we had, we do prefer direct funding. If that is unacceptable to the network, we can do an escrow, but it's just a little harder to engage the investors who are on the other side of things if we do have that. So we split it over 3 months, and I think once people see the progress and the transparency we're doing, we're hoping that they're going to continue to support the project. And we're going to be feeding back some very interesting info about what's happening on the ground in Zim, how this thing is being used. We want to make sure that the whole community is going to learn from our experience, and we also want to be the first to do it. We're really keen to. We think we got the expertise, together between me, James, and Steve. We do have the expertise in our dev teams to actually implement this. So yeah, I know it seems expensive. It can cost a lot more to do similar things, and we're putting a lot of it off our own back. So any feedback, please. If people can go to the proposal link, I don't know if you've got the ability to post that on this, but that would be really useful.
I will. I'll post it underneath.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dale. We're just looking for feedback. I'm hoping that we can get the proposal in for the current Superblock cycle. It's not going to give us a lot of time. At the moment, there's only a few people have kind of voted on it. Like everyone's voted it positively so far. But yeah, I want a little bit more discussion. Really, we are, just believe me, being genuine here. We want the feedback. We want to know what people want to see, because that's going to inform how we're going to take this project forward.
Okay, so the second part of my funding question is, since we're providing the venture capital for the networks providing this, what's your revenue stream for the company, and is the Dash Network going to partake in some of that revenue stream, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, so we discussed, so again, this is some discussions I've had with Ryan and co. At this stage, a lot of initiatives that we're doing, this initiative here benefits the network directly. If we can imagine that just the holding of Dash is like holding shares in a sort of a DAO, if you like. So anyone who's holding Dash, just got to consider, is it a benefit if we could land this cryptocurrency in Zim? If we could do that, do you benefit financially, and also, I guess, within the ecosystem, are we doing anything to expand it? It's less about like giving equity to, I don't know, another group within the foundation or something. It's more about, is this proposal fit, and does it make sense that masternodes or people who hold Dash will benefit if we execute it appropriately? And that's kind of the way that I'd answer that. I'd say that, of course, right? Like if we could absorb several 100,000 Dash to be in circulation, and then make that work, well, we know that the next stage would be go to other countries within the African continent, and we would be the first cryptocurrency to do that. We'd be making history. So yeah, that would make my answer to that. Yeah, it's really going to directly benefit the network by having Dash being used as this. It's the only one that we can use now. It's the only one that's got instant send, and also, I guess, I like the support of the DAO and the way that the proposal and the funding works. Gives us the ability to generate value. It like no other crypto does. If we had to do this with another crypto, we'd be paying for all of it, and we'd be taking all the risk. One of the reasons that we're going to the network is that, and I've been in New York now, like I've talked to a number of investors. We've actually got some, and we have some potential investment now from a very interesting person. But if you look at institutional investment for this project, it's extremely hard to get. Zimbabwe is a very uncertain and difficult place to do business. So institutional investors just will not have it, and a bank is definitely not going to fund anything like this. So, that's why we come to the network, because really, the network can take these sorts of risks. It doesn't have a huge amount of cost, and if we're going to be doing this properly, it does add a huge amount of value to anyone who will hold Dash. We expand the ecosystem, we learn a lot, we share our data. And at the end of the day, it must be a self-sustaining business. This thing has to take off and support itself. We don't want to come back to the network over and over and over again, because it's a loss maker. It has to, if it makes its own money, if it can expand by itself, or maybe we do come back for certain expansion phases to the network, which, let's say, if you were looking at traditional funding, you might do with venture capital. Then it allows us to build a bigger and bigger footprint. And that footprint should sustain itself for the long term. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this big. It's not just for Zimbabwe. It really is a broader project, right? So we really hope the network supports it and sees that it will directly benefit, masternode owners and anyone really who holds Dash. Okay,
that's a fair answer. I like what you said about making history, because it's true. We are seeming to make history here. Dash is... Cryptocurrency's never been done, and no cryptocurrency does what Dash does. So I think that we have the group of people here, yourself, myself, the whole group of people in Dash Nation Slack everywhere. I think we have the team that we can get this done. We can see crypto all over the world in the form of Dash. So the other question I had for you was about Evolution. I know some of my viewers might not know what it is, but Evolution is a new software that's coming out that's going to make Dash as easy to use as PayPal, with a PayPal-like interface. And how is your project, KuvaCash, how is that going to interact with Evolution?
Yeah, so what initially that we're trying to do is we have to build, so Evolution is, as well as being the front end that looks, should look very PayPal-ish, or a browser that allows you to have a wallet and access to services and so forth, right? We have to be, we have to actually build something that's completely aligned with what the local market needs. So we'll be using, or we'll be adapting at some point in the future when Evolution does come out and has been tested for a while, et cetera, where instead of the Kobe infrastructure, which we're planning at the moment to be the underlying, to form the underlying platform for Kuva, we would then start to use the DAPI. We would update it. I mean, anything like this is going to be a living piece of software. But what is very important is the usability for the end user, the customer experience for the end user on the ground. That includes not just like the app itself and what it's going to look like on the phone, but our customer servicing, the way that we set up our infrastructure and where we place our ATMs and how we set up our agency network, the software that they have to support that, and the rest of it. So Evolution is going to, we have to update into Evolution at some point. But for now, it's really that we would be focusing on those customer experiences and managing them ourselves. We would have to do that. We couldn't just throw Evolution to, say, an end user on the ground in Zim. They would have it wouldn't be able to do what they need to do, basically, in an easy way.
Okay.
The other thing, if I can just say something about that too, is we will start to have information about how users will use this thing in a developed market or in developing markets. How users actually are using it, and how whether they move in and out of cache. These are unknown questions, right? But these are unknowns, and so if our data hopefully is going to be able to inform Evolution, so that we can build better applications on top of it for cache transformation, and also the network is the core team is working towards building something that's we can contribute to it being more useful to users. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We really need just a concrete something that we land and put in front of people that they use to solve an issue, and then that data can be used for us to improve the Evolution product suite at the end of the day.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like you've given us a pretty good overview of your proposal. Did you have anything else to add that you might think would be of use to my viewers?
At the moment, no. I think, look, what we're looking for is some feedback. I tend to be, I don't know, I should mention, I tend to be a little bit behind the scenes with things. So I spend a lot of my time building like large plans and things like that. So I'm not like hugely visible on the Slack channels and so on. But if anyone wants to hit me up directly, they can. It's no problem. But yeah, at the end of the day, my attention tends to go to like, I need to have my mind on the project itself. So we will communicate. We'll have a channel for that to go back to the community. But please, it's very important that we get some feedback like as soon as we can. We would like to get into the next Superblock. If we need to date the next one, that's okay. If we need to set up escrow, that's okay. Just help us to try and land this project, and let us kind of show you what we can do. I think we can make a real difference in Zim.
Okay, so the link to the proposal will be below. Please check it out and provide any feedback that you'd like to provide. This is a very worthy project, and helping the Zimbabwean people, and then spreading Dash around the whole African continent, perhaps. So please give it a look. So how do we reach you on the Dash Nation Slack or in the forums? Is it Max Yoga? Yeah,
it's Max Yoga is my name on there. I'm not Max or Yoga, but I just like the name. So I'm Max Yoga. Just hit me up on Dash Slack, and also I've got it posted on I've got the proposal posted up. So the pre-proposal is on Dash Forum. So if you want to go on to that, that's fine. Unfortunately, the Dash Treasury pre-proposal, some funny thing happened, and I cannot access it anymore. I've contacted the support, but so any questions that are posted there, I will answer them back in the forum. Because I can't access it anymore. I'm not getting anyone coming back to me. So yeah, just on the Dash forum, I've got the pre-proposal. Hit me up if you need anything or if you want to have a chat.
Okay,
and thanks. Appreciate the support as well, Tal. Very much appreciated. Like your work, and keep it up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, anytime you want to come back on the show to discuss any maybe any timelines or any kind of accomplishments that you've done and you want to share with us, I'd be happy to have you on the show again.
All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, we'll do. I definitely will do.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Tal. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Well, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more from me in Cash Alternative TV episodes. As you can see, and remember, until next time, Dash is a digital alternative to cash. And for Zimbabwe and everywhere else, it's becoming more so every day. Bye for now.